So next we're going to calculating bandwidth for our team's voice, video, meetings, and events. In order for our end users to have that optimal experience with their Microsoft Teams, we need the necessary bandwidth to do so. Not having enough bandwidth results in a really poor user experience, plenty of phone calls and tickets in your queue. Understanding the bandwidth requirements is the key to a successful Teams deployment. Now I know what you're thinking, isn't bandwidth important for any application? And you definitely would be right. But bandwidth is even more important for some applications like Teams because they support voice and video communication, which is real time. So meaning that two people could be having a conversation in Teams with the expectation to have video and voice, not having enough bandwidth to support those two features will definitely result with some unhappy users in your environment. We have different types of communication within Teams. So we have our voice and video. Maybe we have a scenario where we have our one-on-one meeting, so you and I are having a conversation with audio and video. Or maybe we have a meeting where we have audio, video, and content sharing for up to 1,000 users. Maybe we have town halls, which allows us to have larger audiences up to 10,000 users. We also have screen sharing, so I'm sharing my desktop or maybe a window within my desktop, which could be a certain application. And then Microsoft also mentions together mode. So here, all the meeting participants are all put into this single virtual background. We'll see an example of together mode later in the course. Here are thread numbers of 1,000 and 10,000. But let me show you where I got them from, and these numbers are always changing. All right, so let's go to a link here. Keep in mind, I will bookmark all my links throughout this course below the video. This document here has a chart or a table I want to show you. So here we have different features. In this case, meetings, webinars, and town halls. If we scroll down a bit more. So here for meetings, for interactive participants, if you are on an enterprise plan, that's 1,000 for meetings. Webinars is also 1,000, and town halls are 10,000. In the event you have a Teams Premium license, which is an add-on license to Microsoft Teams, that number jumps to 50,000. Now this number was recently changed because for a while, the number was at 20,000 for Teams Premium. So let me take you to another link here. This is a blog here on Microsoft's website. This is what's new in Microsoft Teams. This was posted in November 2024, which for me was a few months ago. If I scroll down here we see we have support up to 50,000 attendees in a town hall as of December 2024. This increase serves as a significant jump from the previous attendee cap of 20,000 for organizers that had a Teams Premium license. So we can see at the time of this recording, this jumped from 20,000 to 50,000. So at this point, we know there's different ways of communicating within Microsoft Teams. So what does that do for us when it comes to bandwidth calculations? All right, let's go to this document here. If I scroll down, we see a table here with some bandwidth requirements. Here we see some bandwidth recommendations when it comes to audio, video, and also screen sharing. And here we see this is our bit rate in kilobits per second, up or down. So let's pause here for a second and talk about how we calculate bandwidth. So the question is, how is data measured? So we have speed, the data transfer rate, along with volume, how much data is being transferred. So when it comes to data transfer rate, what we're really talking about is how fast data moves across the network. And this is your bit rate. So how much data is being sent or used every second. We can see the measurement here being bits per second, kilobits per second, megabits per second, along with gigabits per second. We also have volume here, and volume is how much data is being sent or received. And here the data is being measured in bytes. So kilobytes, megabytes, gigabytes, and also terabytes. So let's go back to my browser. Go to fast.com to do a bandwidth test. If I can spell that correctly, let me clear my pen there. And we can see here that we're measuring the speed of my internet connection, and it's megabits per second. So that was our speed there that we saw. in gigabits per second, maybe I'm transferring a file that's 4 gigabytes in size. So 4 gigabytes being the volume or the data size of that file. And here we're not going to go over mathematical calculations, but I want to show you in the event I did a bandwidth test like I did here sometime last week, and I got 710 megabits per second. That is the same as 710 kilobits per second, or 710 million bits per second, or 0.71 gigabits per second. In fact, I can't help myself, so let me show you how we get to these numbers real quick. No worries, as you wouldn't need to memorize this for the exam. But 1 kilobit per second is equal to 1,000 bits per second. So if we take our 710 million bits per second, like so, and divide that by 1,000, that's how we get our 710,000 kilobits per second. Now 1 megabit per second is equal to 1,000 kilobits per second. So if we take this number and divide this by 1,000, and now we have our 710 megabits per second. And 1 gigabit per second, as you would have guessed, is equal to 1,000 megabits per second. So we divide this by 1,000, like so, and that's how we get our 0.71 gigabits per second. So now going back to our Microsoft documentation, which is right here. Now we should have a good understanding when we talk about bit rate. We're talking about how much data is being sent or used every second, and we're going to measure it in kilobits per second. So we have our audio here. So we have 1-to-1. So maybe a call between me and you or in a meeting. So we have our minimum here, which is 10 kilobits per second, they being upload and download speed. We also have recommended, which is 58 kilobits per second, upload and download. Or we have our best performance as Microsoft deems, which is 76 kilobits per second, upload and download. We also have video. So again, 1-to-1 or in a meeting. We have our minimum requirements, which is different for 1-to-1 or to meetings. We're sticking with 1-to-1 in my example here, 150 kilobits per second, upload and download. The recommendation is 1500 kilobits per second, upload and download, or 1.5 megabits per second. And then we have the best performance, which is 4000 kilobits per second, or 4 megabits per second. So we can see a big jump here when it comes to minimum, recommended, and also best performance. Let's go ahead and scroll down to screen sharing and together mode. So for screen sharing, we're focused on meeting this time. We have 250 kilobits upload and download speed. For recommended, we have 2.5 megabits upload and download. And for best performance, we have 4 megabits upload and download, or 4000 kilobits upload, download. Then we have together mode, which is a feature only available in Teams meetings. That's why it's not available for one-on-one. And we also have our minimum, our recommended, and best practice bandwidth requirements listed here. Keep in mind, we definitely will be going over some tools that Microsoft provides to help you calculate the bandwidth required for your environment. It's important to know the bandwidth requirements for different types of communication when it comes to one-on-one or in a meeting environment where we have audio, video, or screen sharing. We have a specific amount of bandwidth that will meet your minimum requirements, and then other numbers that will meet the best practice. Let's go ahead and end with looking at town halls and those bandwidth requirements. So here we have a document planned for Teams town halls, which we'll cover later in the course, but I simply want to show you. If I go to this section, get your network ready for town halls, and go to number 4 here, we can see when it comes to planning bandwidth considerations for town halls, that each stream consumes approximately 1.5 megabits per second of bandwidth.
Thanks for watching. If you're interested in an IT career or looking to brush up your IT skills, check out cbtnuggets.com and sign up for a free trial.